Let's talk money. You may be surprised at how many pricing models are available to us as freelancers, consultants, and small business owners. The pricing model you use heavily depends on your industry, your niche, and your product or service. While there isn't necessarily a hard and fast golden rule for which model you should use, I want to take some time in the next couple lessons to show you the most common and useful pricing models, what's good and bad about each of them, and how you would apply them in the real world. So let's jump in with the first two models. Pricing model number one, the hourly rate. What is it? Well, in this pricing model, the freelancer or consultant will charge an hourly rate for their services, which is the most popular choice amongst new freelancers. There are some significant advantages and equally substantial disadvantages to this model. So what's good? Each hour you work is essentially guaranteed income, unless of course your client doesn't pay. We'll talk more on that a little later. People are generally awful at accurately estimating time, like how long it takes to complete a project, or how productive they'll be. With an hourly rate, you protect yourself from underestimating how long a project will take and how much it will cost. Clients can request some pretty crazy and out-of-scope things throughout a project. An hourly rate will A, encourage the client to take a second thought before making a request, because it's going to cost them extra money, and B, give you an opportunity to earn more money without stressing about going over budget. So what's bad about this pricing model? Charging by the hour makes you a commodity. See the service commodity continuum in Module 4. Your earning potential is limited by the hours in the day, and your hourly rate may give your clients sticker shock. So, for example, they might say, "You're charging me $150 an hour to do what?" Charging by the hour discourages you from working quickly and efficiently because you'll make less money. So, what should you charge? What you charge as your hourly rate really depends on a few factors, such as your experience, where you live, your expenses, your desired lifestyle, what other consultants charge for the same work, the value you're providing, the level of pain you're relieving. So for example, low pain would be a low value solution, which would result in a low priced service. And vice versa, high pain would necessitate a high value solution and therefore would be a high priced service or product. Now, if you're in the early stages of your journey and you're building your freelance business on the side, somewhere in the ballpark of $30 to $40 an hour is a reasonable rate, I suppose. I started at $25 an hour, and I know many fresh-faced freelancers who start at $50 an hour, so it depends on my previously mentioned factors. Now, as you gain experience, book more clients, and ultimately go full-time with your operation, you'll need to command higher rates, in the ballpark of $80 to $150 per hour. Now, there are a few reasons why an experienced consultant should have a significantly higher rate, such as they are more skilled and efficient at their craft. And if they're full-time, they are relying exclusively on this income. So operational and marketing expenses come into account. You need to cover business and personal costs, pay healthcare, insurance, save for retirement, kids' education, and so on. Now, in your workbook for this module, I've built a calculator to help you discover your base hourly rate. But for the sake of this lesson, here's a simple formula to help you find your base hourly rate. A, what's your revenue goal? Let's go with $100,000. B, what are your annual expenses? So operational expenses, rent or mortgage, insurance, fees, hardware, software, healthcare, subscriptions, and so on. Let's say $3,000 per month, or a total of $36,000 per year. C, we need a profit margin. Consider that things don't always go according to plan. They rarely do. Provide some padding within your rate for contingency and to allow for a reasonable profit margin instead of just working to cover your costs. A plus B brings us to $136,000 in required revenue. Then multiply it by 20%, which is a reasonable profit margin, which would then bring us to 163,000 and some change. D, weeks off per year for holidays, sick days, vacation, and so on. Think about this. You didn't get into starting your own business, freelancing, and starting a consulting agency because you want to work harder and more hours. You probably went into this world because you want a little more freedom than you currently have. So let's say 6 weeks off. E, what are your actual billable hours? Most people don't work 8 billable hours a day. That's crazy talk. Consider breaks, non-billable time, admin work, and so on. 6 hours is a generous billable hours estimate. So we have about 30 hours per week for 46 weeks, which is 1,380 working hours in the year. So here's the basic formula. A plus B multiplied by C divided by E equals your base hourly rate. So putting that together, $163,200 divided by 1,380 equals 118.26. So we'll round that up to $120 per hour. The more detailed and specific the data you can input into the formula, the more accurate your results will be. So refer to that calculator I talked about in the workbooks. Now, pricing model number 2, the fixed rate. What is it? In this pricing model, the consultant charges a single flat fee for a project or a contract. Also known as the project-based or contract-based pricing, this model can be very advantageous to the consultant who wants to be less of a commodity and drastically increase their earning potential. So let's talk about what's good. You and your client are rewarded for efficiency and speed. So if you charge a fixed rate of $2,000 for a project and you complete it in 5 hours, well, you just earned, $400 an hour? And your client doesn't have to wait. That's a win-win. If you charged hourly for the same project and you told your client your rate was $400 an hour, they would probably laugh you out of the room and they wouldn't hire you. It's funny how that works, hey? You know how much money you're earning in this model, and your client knows how much they are paying. There's no confusion there. Also, you've increased your earning potential because your income isn't tied to the hours in the day. So let's talk about what's bad about this pricing model. You risk losing profit on a project by working inefficiently or being bogged down by out-of-scope client requests. You may also underestimate the time it will take to complete a feature or fulfill a deliverable and charge a fixed rate, only to regret it later because you can't ask a client for more money on something you underestimated. Or if you do ask them, it's going to make you look bad and make them unhappy. If the scope of the project isn't airtight, and often it cannot be, your client may try and milk the budget for all it's worth and request revision after revision or additional feature after additional feature, and so on. This is called scope creep. So what should you charge? The fixed rate model is what I most often use with my service-based clients because it allows me to complete work quickly and maximize my earning potential. To minimize the disadvantages of this model, I'll spend extra time understanding